It was supposed to be the war that changed the Middle East. Iran was burning with anger. Its nuclear dreams were bombed by the United States. The world waited for fire, for blood, for chaos. But then, something strange happened. Iran launched missiles, not at America, not at Israel, but at Qatar, its own friend. Why? The answer was not in the explosions, but in the silence behind them, in the smiles of the leaders, and in the plan no one was supposed to see. This is the story of a strike that looked like war, but felt like a show. A war with no dead, a message written in smoke, and a stage built in Doha. Chapter 1. A War Without End. The world was watching. The sky over the Middle East was heavy, full of fear. Iran and Israel were at war. Missiles flew, people ran, cities shook, but no one knew how it would end. Then, America stepped in. The U.S. hit Iran hard. 3 nuclear sites were bombed: Fordow, Natanz, Isfahan. It was fast, it was strong, and it was personal. Iran felt angry. It felt humiliated. Its nuclear dream damaged. Its pride wounded. People everywhere asked, when will Iran strike back? Who will pay the price? Everyone waited. Hours passed, then days. Still, no answer, no revenge, only silence. But deep inside Iran, plans were moving. Not to hit Israel, not yet. Instead, Iran chose something strange. Qatar. Yes, Qatar. A small, rich country. A friend of Iran. A friend of the U.S., too. People were confused. Why strike Qatar? But Iran had a target, a very specific one. Al Udeid, the U.S. airbase in Qatar. Suddenly, the silence broke. Missiles flew out of Iran. They crossed the Gulf, and they headed straight toward Qatar. Alarms screamed in Doha. Jets took off. Children cried. People ran. The attack had begun, and the world was shocked. Why would Iran hit a friendly country? Why would Qatar become the battlefield? Some said, this is a show, a plan, a way to end the war, without real blood. The missiles came fast. The fear came faster. But the truth was even stranger. Iran had warned Qatar before the strike. Qatar had time to prepare. They closed their airspace. They moved people. Even the Americans knew. Later, President Trump said, "Thank you, Iran. You told us when and where. You killed no one." It sounded like a joke, but it was real. This was not a normal war. This was something else. A message? A show? A deal? No one was sure. But everyone was watching. And this was just the beginning. Chapter 2. The target is a friend? The missiles fell, but they didn't hit Tel Aviv. They didn't touch Haifa. Not even an American base in Iraq. They hit Qatar. People were shocked. Even experts were silent. Qatar? A close partner of Iran? A neighbor? A friend? Why would Iran strike Doha? Why now? The answer was not simple, and the truth was hidden. Iran said it was revenge. Revenge for America's attack. Revenge for Fordow. Revenge for Natanz. Revenge for Isfahan. But why not hit U.S. bases directly? Why not strike Israel? Instead, Iran chose to send missiles to a country it calls a brother. Strange? Yes. Unless the attack was not real. Some began to ask, was this a real strike? Or was it a message? Was it war? Or a show? The missiles were loud. They caused fear. They made fire. But no one died. Not one U.S. soldier. Not one Qatari citizen. Only buildings shook. Only cameras rolled. And then the stories started. Iran had warned Qatar before the strike. Qatar had time. Time to prepare. Time to move people. Time to stop panic. The Americans, too, were ready. The base was mostly empty. Al-Udeid was not sleeping. It was expecting the missiles. So, again, people asked, was this a real attack? Or was it a stage? A plan? Even the President of the U.S., Donald Trump, said something strange. He said, Iran told us about the time and place of the strike. Nobody got hurt. No problem. That didn't sound like war. It sounded like agreement. Behind the scenes, something felt wrong. Something felt too perfect. The missiles flew. The world watched. But maybe, just maybe, the target was never Qatar. Maybe the real goal was to end the war with a show. Chapter 3. Please hit me. The night was loud. Sirens, explosions, flashes in the sky. Missiles came from Iran. Fast. But something didn't feel right. Qatar was not screaming in anger. The government didn't call it an act of war. They didn't even shout. Instead, they closed their airspace. They released a calm statement. They said, "We defended our skies. We were ready. We will respond if needed." Software polite. Almost too polite. Some people started whispering. Did Qatar allow the strike? Did they agree with Iran in secret? And then came the wild theory. Maybe Qatar said, "Please, hit me." It sounds crazy, right? But think. Iran needed to answer the U.S. attack. They needed to save face. They couldn't stay silent, but they couldn't risk a full war with America or Israel. Too dangerous. Too big. So they needed a safe target, somewhere that looked strong, but would not fight back. That place was Qatar. Al-Udeid Air Base, a U.S. military center, far from civilians. Easy to clean later. No deaths, no blood. And Qatar? A small country. Smart. Careful. Maybe cooperative? Iran informed them. They had time to prepare. They cleared the base, No one was inside when the missiles came. Even President Trump admitted it. He said, "They told us." No one got hurt. We're fine. And Iran? They got their big TV moment. They showed the launch. They played war music. They said, "This is our answer to America." But it was just for the screen. Just for headlines. Backstage, no one was really fighting. Qatar looked like a victim. Iran looked strong. America looked safe. And the war looked like it was ending. So maybe, just maybe. Qatar said, "Yes, hit me. Make it look real. And let's move on." Chapter 4. The children cried. It was just after midnight. The sound came first. A long, deep howl. Then the shaking. Then the flash. People jumped from their beds. Mothers grabbed their children. Fathers ran to the windows. The sky over Doha was burning. 10 missiles had come. From Iran, toward Qatar. One man shouted to his family, "Get out! Now!" He could see fire, not far from his home. The heat was growing. Children screamed in the dark. They didn't know what was happening. Was it war? Was it the end? No one could explain. Sirens filled the city. Phones were buzzing. People ran to the streets in panic. Cars tried to escape. Mothers held babies and cried. And then, a fire started. One house was hit, not directly, but close. The windows broke. The roof cracked. And inside, flames began to rise. A man, barefoot, ran into the smoke. He held a fire extinguisher. His hands were shaking. His face was black with dust. He didn't care about the danger. He wanted to save his home. This was not war. This was fear. News cameras were everywhere. One child, around 5 years old, held her ears and cried. Behind her, her mother whispered, "Shh, it's okay. It's just noise." But it wasn't just noise. It was fire. It was destruction. It was trauma. All from a missile that was supposed to hit a U.S. base, but landed near people instead. Later, we learned the truth. Out of 10 missiles, 9 were stopped. Only 1 slipped through. It didn't hit the base. It hit the side of a house. No one died. No one was hurt. But the fear? It stayed. It stayed in the eyes of the children, in the voice of the man whose home burned, in the hearts of families who didn't sleep that night. The government of Qatar made a statement. They said, "Our defenses worked. We intercepted the attack. There are no injuries. We remain strong." But not everyone felt strong. Some felt betrayed. "Why did Iran strike us?" one man asked. "We're not the enemy." Another said, "They warned the Americans." Did they warn us too? And a woman whispered, "Maybe we knew. Maybe they told us. But we didn't tell the people." No one could answer. The official story said it was all under control, that the base was empty, that no lives were in danger. But for the families near that house, the danger was real. The screams were real. The smoke was real. One boy told a reporter, "I thought it was a monster. It was so loud. It came from the sky." That boy will never forget. He will never forget that night. The fire, the noise, the feeling of running without shoes. And maybe no one should forget. Because even if it was just a show, even if no one died, even if it was planned, it still brought fear to real people, to real children, to a real city. In wars, real or not, it's always the people who pay. And that night, in Doha, the children cried. Chapter 5. The Perfect Strike. 10 missiles. That was the number. Not too many, not too few, just enough. Iran launched them in the night. All eyes were watching. The world held its breath. Where would they land? What would they destroy? The target was clear. Al Udeid Air Base, the heart of the U.S. military in Qatar. A symbol, a message, and yet, the results were strange. 9 missiles stopped, intercepted, destroyed in the sky. No fire, no deaths. Only one missile made it through. And it didn't even hit the base. It landed outside, far from soldiers, far from aircraft, far from anything important. It hit the edge of a residential area, a quiet neighborhood. Just one house got damaged. No one inside, only furniture burned. A small fire, no bodies, no funerals. For a revenge attack, it looked clean. Too clean. Qatar called it a success. Our defense system worked, they said. We protected the country. Iran called it a victory too. We hit the American base, they announced. Our missiles showed our power. And the U.S.? They smiled. President Trump even joked, "No one was hurt. They told us it was coming. We're good." That was the strangest part. Everyone claimed victory. No one lost. No one bled. No one cried for the dead. But behind the scenes, people asked questions. How did 9 out of 10 missiles fail? Was Iran trying or pretending? Did they want to miss? And what about the one that landed? Some experts said it was allowed. Just one missile to make it look real. A controlled failure. They called it the perfect strike. Perfect, because it looked like war, but caused no war. Perfect, because it gave Iran something to show on TV. Rocket launches, explosions, soldiers cheering. Perfect, because the U.S. showed strength too. Look how we stopped the missiles, they said. Our defense is ready. And perfect, because Qatar stood in the middle and came out clean. No casualties, no scandal, just a bit of smoke and a lot of headlines. But some people didn't buy it. One reporter said, "This is not a war. This is theater." Another asked, "If Iran wanted to hurt the U.S., why warn them first?" A military analyst whispered, "This was agreed." All sides knew. It was a performance. And maybe that was true, because every detail fit too well. The warning from Iran. The airspace closed in time. The base evacuated. The missile count, just enough. The damage, just enough. Not too big, not too small. Just enough to fool the world. People on the ground still felt fear, of course. But the governments, they seemed calm, relaxed, as if everything had gone exactly as planned. And maybe it had. Because in modern war, winning is not always about killing. Sometimes, winning means looking strong, saving face, sending a message without causing chaos. And in this strange war between Iran, America, and Israel, Qatar became the stage. The missiles were the lights, the sirens were the sound, and the fire, that was the drama. But the script, it was perfect. Chapter 6, Iran warned everyone. This was not a surprise. That's what we know now. The missile strike, the panic, even the fire. None of it was unexpected. Because Iran warned them. Yes, Iran warned Qatar. And not just Qatar. The United States knew too. Let's go back. Before the missiles were launched, before the sirens screamed in Doha, something quiet happened. A message. It came from Iran. It said, "We are going to strike Al Udeid Air Base. Be ready." Qatar listened. They acted fast. Within hours, they closed their airspace. Planes stopped flying. Roads were cleared. People were moved. Al Udeid Base, the U.S. military zone, was emptied. No soldiers inside, no planes on the runway, no lives in danger. America confirmed it later. Yes, Iran had warned them. Yes, the base was evacuated. Qatar also admitted it. They knew the strike was coming, and they prepared for it. So when the missiles came, everyone was ready. It looked like chaos on TV, but in reality, it was a controlled moment. And that's why some called it a show. Because no one was shocked. No one was unprepared. One missile hit a home, but even that looked accidental. 9 were stopped. 1 allowed to fall. Maybe on purpose. And still, there were 0 deaths. No American troops hurt. No Qatari civilians injured. The result? Perfect. Iran got their revenge. America stayed safe. Qatar stood strong. But there was more. Some people thought Iran only warned Qatar, but then came the reports. From Reuters, from American officials. Iran told the U.S. too. A senior official in Washington said, "Yes, Iran gave us a heads up. We had time. We cleared the base." So the question became clear. Why warn the enemy? If you want revenge, if you want to show power, why tell your target? The answer, some say, is because this wasn't about killing. It was about sending a message. Iran had been hit hard. Their nuclear sites were damaged. They had to respond. But they didn't want war. So they sent a warning. And a missile. Enough to save face, but not enough to cause war. Qatar played its part too. They made an official statement. They condemned the attack. They promised to protect their skies, but they spoke in a soft tone. No shouting, no threats, just careful words. They even said, "We reserve the right to respond." But no action followed. Their message was clear. We understand. Let's move on. And the world? The world accepted it. Quickly. Because there were no deaths, no funerals, no international crisis, just fire and smoke and politics. A reporter asked a Pentagon official, "Were you surprised by the attack?" He smiled. Number. We saw it coming. That one sentence said everything. This was not a secret. This was organized, planned, agreed, a short play, a small explosion, a big message. And when it ended, everyone clapped. Chapter 7. The Music of War. The rockets were launched. The cameras were ready. The TV screens were glowing red. In Iran, the news was not quiet. It was loud, very loud. Military music filled the air. Trumpets, drums, strong beats. The kind of music you hear in victory parades. And on the screen, images of rockets flying into the night. Explosions in the dark. Bright flashes over the Gulf. A bold title appeared in red. Successful Response to American Aggression. It was not just news. It was theater. Iran wanted the world to see strength. So they put on a show. Their soldiers cheered. Their officers gave speeches. Their media showed maps, targets, impact zones. It looked like a real war. But something was missing. The enemy. The U.S. did not fight back. No jets flew out from Al Udeid. No bombs dropped on Tehran. No warplanes in the air. In fact, America was silent. And Qatar? Qatar was even more quiet. They released a short statement. We were attacked. We defended our skies. We condemn the aggression, but we ask for peace. The words were soft, carefully chosen. No shouting, no fire in the voice. And yet, just hours before, women and children were running in fear. One man's home was burning. People thought war had started. But the government did not say war. They said incident. They said provocation, but never act of war. This silence was powerful, too powerful. Many began to wonder, was this silence planned? Iran's TV kept playing the music. It played again and again. Strong beats, heroic voices. This is our answer, they shouted. This is our power. But behind the noise, there was no blood, no deaths, no soldiers lost, just one house on fire and a base that was already empty. Analysts looked closer. They noticed the signs. Qatar closed its airspace before the attack. Qatar moved people before the attack. America evacuated its base before the attack. Everyone knew what was coming, yet no one stopped it. Because maybe no one needed to stop it. This was not about destruction. It was about performance. And the music? It was part of the act. Even Israel watched silently. No response, no new strikes, just silence. One news anchor said, "This is the quietest war I've ever seen." Another added, "It looks loud, but it feels empty." Still, for people on the ground, it didn't feel empty. The explosions were real. The fear was real. The screams were real. But the result? No damage to the U.S., no war with Iran, no military deaths, just news, music, statements, and a strong sense that everyone was reading from the same script. The missiles, the music, the silence, all pieces of a bigger picture, and that picture was not war. It was something else. It was agreement, coordination, maybe even peace, by fear. But at what cost? Because even if the war was fake, the fear was not. The children still cried. The fire still burned. And while Iran played music, some people were listening to silence. Sigh. Chapter 8. Behind the Curtain. The lights were bright. The music was loud. The missiles had flown. But something didn't feel right. Something felt too perfect. And behind the curtain, there were no surprises, only secrets. In Washington, President Trump was not sleeping. He was in the Situation Room. With him were his top people, the Secretary of Defense, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, security experts. They watched everything. Live. Radar, satellite images, maps, numbers. They knew when the missiles would come. They knew where they would land. They knew no one would be hurt. How? Because Iran had told them. Iran warned both Qatar and the U.S., and both listened, both prepared. The airbase, Al Udeid, was empty. No pilots, no workers, no soldiers in danger. Everything was clean. Everything was safe. So when the missiles came, they hit nothing. Almost as if they were meant to hit nothing. And people started to ask, was this real? Was it war? Or was it all arranged? News reports came out. One said, Trump watched the attack in real time. Another said, Iran's response was symbolic, not strategic. Then came the theories. Some believed there was a secret deal, that after the U.S. bombed Iran's nuclear sites, everyone wanted a quick end. Iran needed to save face. America needed to avoid a bigger war. Israel had reached its goals. Qatar wanted peace. So, they built a scene, a stage, a performance. Each side had a role. Iran, play the strong hero. The U.S., show calm control. Qatar, be the victim, but don't fight back. Israel, stay quiet, stay satisfied. And then, end the show. Some say the idea came after a meeting between Iran's foreign minister and Russia's president, Vladimir Putin. Soon after that, missiles flew. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. Another strange piece of the puzzle. Israel sent a message to Iran. They told them, "We want this war to stop. You've made your point. Now, let's end it." Why? Because Israel believed it had already won. Iran's nuclear sites were hit, mission complete. But Iran also needed to claim victory. They couldn't stay silent, so they planned a response. A big, loud, scary response. That would look like war, but not be war. Qatar agreed to be the middle ground. The stage. It had to look real. It had to sound real. But it could not be real. That's why Qatar closed its airspace. That's why America emptied the base. That's why Iran told everyone in advance. The only thing that wasn't part of the script was the one missile that landed near a house. That was not planned. That was real. It reminded people, even in fake wars, real fear happens. Still, most experts agreed. This was not a normal conflict. This was a political performance, a way for all sides to say, "We are strong. We defended ourselves. We are still in control." And when it ended, each side told their people, "We won." Iran showed its missiles. The U.S. showed its calm. Qatar showed its defense. Israel showed its silence. But behind the curtain, it was all the same show. And everyone was in on it. Chapter 9. Everyone wins. The smoke was gone. The missiles had fallen. No more sirens, no more flames, just silence and statements. And suddenly, the war was over. But who lost? No one. Because this time, everyone won. Iran was the first to speak. They called their strike a victory. They showed videos of soldiers launching missiles. They used words like honor, revenge, and justice. They said, "We answered the enemy. We defended our country. This is the beginning of our triumph." The people cheered. The media played dramatic music. The army smiled. To the Iranian people, it looked like a big win. But what they didn't see was that the U.S. base was already empty, that Qatar was already ready, that no one was harmed. Still, Iran said, "This is our answer to American aggression." They named the operation the Promise of Victory. Then came Donald Trump. He walked up to the cameras with a calm face. He said, "Thank you, Iran. You warned us. You didn't kill anyone. We are safe." He smiled. He laughed. And then he said it clearly. The war is over. Just like that. He even joked about Iran's strike. "Not so powerful," he said, a weak response. But behind his smile, there was confidence, because America got what it wanted. Iran's nuclear sites were hit. The bases were safe. No American soldiers died. A win. Then came Israel. They said nothing, but their silence was loud. Israeli newspapers called it a success. Military experts agreed. The mission is complete. Iran's program is damaged. No need to continue fighting. Even Israeli officials told journalists, "We've reached our goal. Now it's time to stop." And then Qatar stepped in. They had been the battlefield, the victim, the accidental target. But they did not cry. They released a statement. "We defended our skies. We suffered no losses. We condemn the attack, but we call for peace." A smart message, a careful one. They looked strong. They looked calm. And they showed the world that they could handle pressure, even from a friend like Iran. Then came the headlines. Qatar, the peacemaker. Iran wins face, U.S. wins safety. War ends without war. It was strange, unbelievable, but somehow it worked. Each side got something. Iran showed power without starting a real war. The U.S. showed control without using more force. Israel ended the danger without more blood. Qatar stood in the fire and didn't get burned. One analyst said, "It was not a war, it was a message." Another called it the theater of the Gulf. And that's what it felt like. A play, a stage. Each actor playing their part. Each word written in advance. And the final scene? Applause. Not from the people in danger, not from the families near the explosion, but from the leaders, from the newsrooms, from the world. They all said the same thing. It's over now. We're safe. We won. But deep down, many people wondered, what if the next time it's not a show? What if next time the missiles are real? Because in war, even a fake one, the danger is always close. And sometimes everyone wins, but no one forgets.